Hello, BookTube. I have a tag for you today on Tag Tuesday. I don't usually get tagged, and I wasn't specifically tagged here. It's the Get to Know My Taste tag that was created by Samantha at Thoughts on Tomes and Maria at My Name is Marines. And I was tagged, sort of, kind of, by Pat at Book Chat with Pat. Not by name, not specifically, but by osmosis, because I watched her video and she tagged anyone who watches her video. That's good enough for me, since I'm a leper, an outcast, a pariah. On BookTube, I can't expect to be tagged lovingly and with individual care, but the questions are so good that I wanted to jump in, and I hope everybody does. Because this is another one of get to know you as a reader type thing, which is valuable for all of us to do, not only because it helps clarify thought on our own parts, but also because we have to remember that people are finding our channels. New people are finding our channels all the time. We keep doing this year after year, month after month, and it's so much fun seeing what somebody's up to, joining this group or that read-along or whatnot, that I sometimes think we forget how much time is passing. It's a record. It's a large body of work, and people find it who are new to it. So these kind of tags are invaluable. Plus, I love talking about this sort of stuff. So let's look at these questions about get to know my taste. And I will not belabor here the question of taste versus objective worth. There is a difference. The tag is perfectly well mannered along those lines. No one is saying this but me. It's my own defensiveness goes up when we talk about the word taste, because if you push that too far, you get to my dreaded all reading is subjective. And reading might be subjective, but the worth of a piece of literature is not just subjective. But that is only distantly implied here. So let's see what question number 1 is. How do you rate books? Give a quick rundown of how you do star ratings, or if you don't use star ratings, how you evaluate books. And here I'll leave a link to Pat's video down below. I'm going to echo Pat's video because we're the exact same way. I don't rate books. I don't give them tomatoes or thumbs up or cartoons or stars or anything like that. When I finish with a book, I have thoughts about the book. I have reactions to the book. They are deeply connected with the subject matter. They are deeply connected with the merits of the book itself. They're deeply connected with the last 10 books on that subject. They fluctuate. There are parts of the book that will be different. What does a star say? These aren't carburetors. I don't do any just bland rating systems like that. I actually think they're antithetical to reading and to talking about books, which is what we're supposed to be doing here. A star rating is so that you don't have to read a review. And why would a reader want a convenience to get them out of reading something? I know. If you don't have any idea who I am and don't care at all what I think about books, then I don't want you to read. I don't want to tell you what I thought about a book. What would be the point for either of us? And if you do, then I trust you'll want more than just a boom, boom, boom. But anyway, so what I do is just go through the book and evaluate all of those different elements, all its moving parts. Which gets us to question number 2. How do you approach reviewing books? What is your review style? Are you analytical, emotional, casual, structured? I don't know about casual. Casual is what I do on this channel, where I'm not reviewing books so much as I am talking about them. Although I've been told that even there, when I get around to talking about the nuts and bolts of a book, it very much sounds like a structured review. For those of you, again, those new people who might be coming to this channel not knowing anything about me or BookTube or anything like that, I'm a book reviewer. I'm a professional book reviewer. It's my job, and it has been for a long, long time. There was a long time where it wasn't, but then before that, there was a long time when it was, and now there's been a long time that it is again. So reviewing for me is not the same thing as just slapping a star rating on something. It's actually what I do. So my approach is critical. I read critically. I do everything that. I do that now all the time. That's just reflexive. Where I am assessing how a book is doing what it's doing at every point along the way. Contrary to what a lot of people think who do not read critically, that does not eliminate magic. That does not preclude being swept away. Those things happen to me regularly. If they didn't, I wouldn't do it. I would just go back to working, in the box factory. I am wide open to the wonder of books. That's the thing that keeps me reading. But I still assess them. I assess everything that I read. So how is this done? How derivative is it? Is it an echo of the last thing that was like it? Does it do something that genuinely surprises me? Does it do something that genuinely moves me? All that sort of stuff. Uh, Question number 3 is, what's the book that made you a reader? Whether it was your first favorite or the one you got that got you hooked, what book started it all? I really don't think there was a single book for me. I don't really know that there was a single book for anybody, because any single book that has that kind of effect can be written off as a fluke. But if we want to talk, there's always a handful, a small handful. For me, if I had to name a single book, it would be Homer's Iliad. And then moving on from there, and then lapping outwards from there, and eventually, once I'd read enough of Homer and his brethren, to feel myself a reader, to know for sure that this was doing something in me that nothing else had ever done, and that I definitely wanted done in me. Well, then pretty soon after that, I found the Victorians. And then I was just swept away with Robert Louis Stevenson, Rudyard Kipling, Sherlock Holmes. I found the Victorians, and that pretty much did it for me as a reader. Now, question number 4 is, do you have a genre niche? Are there certain genres you gravitate towards, or do you read widely across genres? I read widely across genres. Thanks to BookTube, I now have more access than I ever did before in my reading life to niche readers. And there's nothing wrong with that at all. Nothing at all. I myself shudder when I see a niche reader, because I would consider that a severe punishment if someone were to do that to my own reading. A severe punishment. When I look at, the most prominent example on BookTube is FantasyTube. Is fantasy readers, people who read fantasy novels, and who will tell you that they read other things. Usually the other thing is some sort of Old English or something like that, but they really don't. They might tell you that I occasionally read a historical novel or a Cormac McCarthy, but they really don't. 99% of their reading is fantasy novels, and in metallurgy, if a thing is 99% pure, it's 100% pure. It's effectively just a statistical anomaly if they read anything else. And I watch a ton of those channels. I wish that I was accepted by them, much like Jane Goodall being accepted by the Gompi Chimps. But they are absolutely xenophobic. They do not accept outsiders. In order to get inside their ranks, you have to read the way they do. So you know every one sentence walk-on character from the First Law, but you have never read a book by a woman. So it's something like that, something along those lines. So I'm not welcome in their little enclave, unfortunately. But they're not the only niche readers. There are plenty of others on BookTube, and I see a lot of them. I see a lot of those videos, and I like them. And even sometimes there's a part of me that envies it. For a moment, for a split second, there's a part of me that thinks, wouldn't it be so much more manageable if you just read epic fantasy and nothing else? Wouldn't that be so much more manageable if you just read science fiction and nothing else? Effectively nothing else. I understand the allure of that, because that's what causes people to be snobs. That's what causes people to stop reading. That's what causes people to be niche readers, is that they look at this gigantic, immeasurable ocean of books they know they'll never get to. And some people, that really disturbs them. I think most of us, it really disturbs them on some level or other. But some people react to that disturbance by intentionally narrowing the field so that they can feel that they're getting a handle on it. And that has an appeal. But no, I'm not a niche reader. I read very, very widely. I go anywhere. I'll read anything. Question number 5 is, do you generally prefer character-driven or plot-driven stories? Plot-driven stories. Question number 6 is, what's a book you love so much that you don't care if others like it or don't like it? What's that one book you love enough for everyone? I don't care whether or not anyone likes anything that I read, and neither should you. What business is it of theirs? Why should that affect you at all? There isn't one book that I like that I love that I hate, or that I love that everyone else hates. There's not one book that I hate that everyone else loves. I wouldn't want it that way, but I wouldn't care either way. I don't check with other people on that regard. I encounter other people once I'm done. I see that there are different opinions on different authors, but uh, uh, the question says, what's a book you love so much that you don't care if others don't like it? And there isn't any such thing, and there shouldn't be for me or you. And what's the one book you love enough for everyone? Well, there are books that I love that I don't know many people that love them, but that's okay. That's perfectly all right. Question number 7 is, what's a book you love so much that if someone doesn't like it, you know your reading tastes don't align? The book or books where a difference of opinion is a strong indicator of different reading preferences. I don't believe in this. I thought about this a lot, and I don't believe in this. This has happened to me many, many times, where I will pick a book that I deeply, deeply love. You want my attention, darling? I hope all is well. Hope you're doing well. I thought about this question with some of the books that might be bellwether books for me. That's obviously what this question is asking for, bellwether books. The problem is that so much of what I read is long, serious works of biography, works of history from the classical world or whatnot, that long biographies just in general, long histories just in general, that if I go to fiction, I think this whole tag is about fiction, but I don't have any actual proof of that, so I think that if we go to fiction, and I pick a bellwether book, so let's say The Killer Angels by Michael Sharer, or Wolf Hall by Hilary Mantel. Well, I love those books, and I also think they are self-evidently spellbinding. I think if you start them, you will fall under the spell whether or not you read historical fiction. They're both historical fiction. But I don't believe that if someone didn't like that, that means a fundamentally different reading taste. And maybe that's a case of me being spoiled by BookTube. That could very well be. Because if you're not spoiled by BookTube, the readers you are almost certainly encountering in your life are book club people, 3-book-a-year people. With BookTube, I'm dealing with people who are extremely experienced readers. It's a consciously decided huge part of their life. They make time for it. Their reading muscles are in excellent shape. They are attuned to nuance. They're happy with disagreement. And therefore, maybe I'm spoiled, but I don't think that if I handed The Killer Angels to somebody on BookTube, for instance, or BookTube commenter, and said, I love this book, I hope you do too, and they said, no, I didn't like it at all, I really don't feel like that would signify an unbridgeable gap between us. I don't even believe that it would be permanent. I said for years and years with The Killer Angels that if you don't, I used to tell my customers in a bookstore, if you don't like it, I'll buy it back from you. And no one ever took me up on that. And I had customers who would have, if they could, who went into it dedicated to not liking it so they could get their money back. And that never happened. I firmly believe the same thing is true about Wolf Hall and probably a few other books as well. But even if it happened, I know people who reacted with extreme antipathy, let's just say, to books that I deeply love. Doesn't affect things much. Certainly doesn't mean that never the twain will meet. So I don't think there is such a thing as a single book where that would be the case. Question number 8 is, what's in your trash pocket? What books, tropes, or themes that you know are bad, but you love them anyway? Well, obviously, maybe not obviously if you're new to this channel, I have a sweet tooth for giant killer shark novels, for instance. Now, I know that it's not a trope. I wish the BookTube would stop using the word trope. If you're not going to use it right, I wish you'd stop using it at all. But naturally, that gimmick of a giant killer shark is bad. That is a bad gimmick. Peter Benchley, the author of Jaws, knew that well before he died. He made amends for the fact that was a bad idea. For decades, he made amends. Tried to. It was too late because his book and the movie that was made out of it were cultural phenomena. There's no way to reverse that, and there's no way that one person is stronger than that. But it is definitely a bad gimmick. Sharks kill probably, 200 people a year? Maybe 100 people a year? Maybe less than that? And humans kill tens of thousands of sharks every year. Humans are driving sharks to extinction. All sharks, bigger than a foot long, to extinction. So obviously the gimmick of a novel built around a maniacal, malevolent, human intelligent, plotting, scheming killer shark is a bad gimmick. Not just because it's so completely unbelievable, but because it inculcates bad attitudes to people. It's not a bad attitude. The bad attitude is not that it stops people from going and swimming in the ocean. Only a lunatic would swim in the ocean, because that is where sharks are. But bad attitudes in the sense that these are evil creatures. They're not. They're not evil creatures. They're apex predators. And if you swim in the water, you're presenting them with a free meal, or at least a free snack bite, like those little pieces of free hors d'oeuvres with the toothpicks in them that the person is holding in front of the supermarket. You're not going to turn one of those down. Well, a shark's not going to turn down a bite of one of those either. They probably won't like what they taste, but they'll probably take a bite. And if it's a 15-foot tiger shark, a bite is all that's necessary to change your life forever or end it. And if you're an American swimming in the ocean, well, then you're morbidly obese. So you're presenting that 15-foot tiger shark not just with a tiny little bite, but with a big sandwich. Here you go. Take a generous helping and see if you like it. But that gimmick is bad. In the same way that, like for instance, in previous decades, like in the romance world, in previous decades, there was a very popular strand of romance where a young white woman is abducted by a Native American man who unleashes her inner womanhood, meaning he rapes her into fulfillment. And you can go back and read some of those books, and some of them are well put together. They have good dialogue, pretty good historical details. Cassie Edwards never really wrote a bad book, unless you account for the fact that that gimmick itself is bad. And of course that gimmick itself is bad. Of course it is. So you've got stuff like that that you could put in your trash pocket, and the only time that you will read it with your head held high will be in August, for Garb August. Stuff like that, I can know that the gimmick is bad on multiple levels, maybe. Sometimes I read it anyway, usually not. Actually, killer shark novels still work on me, or killer grizzly novels, stuff like that. But that kind of native conquest things, and not just Native Americans either. It's sticking with romance for a minute here. A strong narrative tendency in romances of all kinds, not just Native American, but all kinds, was that the romance is essentially the man just thoroughly abusing the woman, and the warm, loving ending of the book is her coming to like it. If you strip away all the fluff and the finery and the bodice ripping, that's what it is, and that's pretty distasteful. So in a case of romances, for instance, I think they've certainly improved in terms of trash pocket stuff. But anyway, question number 9 is, do you have any deal breakers in books? Something that, if present, immediately turns you off from a book. And I have said for years and years that my deal breaker for a book is propaganda. So if the book is knowingly a piece of propaganda, so the author knows that they're lying, and they are selling the book, they are pitching the book, aiming it and selling it to readers who are too stupid to know that they're lying, or who know they're lying and just want to believe the propaganda. I have said for years that that is a bright red line, that I will not do, and yet for years I have done it. Because when it comes down to it, I am a book omnivore and a deep, serious book addict. So when it comes down to it, I do it. So if a book is a piece of just empty, obviously fraudulent propaganda, so anything that Ted Cruz writes, anything that Bill O'Reilly writes, Melania Trump's books, lately Bill Belichick's book. If it's something like that, where there's not a word of truth anywhere in the book, and the person whose name is on the cover had no hand in writing it and whatnot, it's just propaganda, stuff like that, I tell myself that that tends to turn me away from the book. I end up sneaking back in the back door and reading them anyway. I just can't help it. And I have told myself, and I've said on this channel, that the bright line I have now is fascist propaganda books. The flood of them that is going to appear, and not just in the usual, fourth-rate Nazi booksellers. There's major publishing houses are going to be writing about the Trump comeback, and the team of Rivals, the team of rivals. Yeah, the team of tapeworms, the team of absolute cronies that he is assembling. There's going to be all sorts of Trump triumphalism that's going to happen in the next year and a half. And there's not a word of truth to any of that. And I tell myself, well, that is surely a line too far. You won't be reading any of that. Who knows? Maybe I'll stay true this time. Question number 9 is, do you have any deal break? Oh, no, we did that already. Question number 10 is, what's a strong opinion you have about a book released within the last year? Whether it's overrated, underrated, or just a take you need to share. I have lots. I have lots of, like I mentioned Melania Trump's book, which she didn't write, couldn't write, can't read. Doesn't mean nothing in it is true. No one's going to buy it. No one's interested in it. It's going to be a bestseller. No idea what it is. I've literally no idea what it is. It is an absolute quantum singularity in the shape of a book. I have no idea what it is. No idea what any part of it is. Same thing with Bill Belichick's book, The Art of Winning. And so on and so forth. I have no idea what any of it means. There's not a word of truth in any of it. All of it is verifiably false. I am sure that Donald Trump will take a 15-figure deal for his memoir, for a book about his presidency. There won't be a single word of truth in it. And he is illiterate, so he cannot write a book. So I have strong opinions about stuff like that, but it's not just junky fascist propaganda. It's also other stuff. For instance, I have very strong opinions about James by Percival Everett. I love the book. I think it's really good. I think I have that feeling that you get. I think I'm going to appreciate it a lot more on a reread. I will get a paperback that's festooned with blurbs and reread it. But I have lots of opinions about the central gimmick of James. One of the central gimmicks. James is Percival Everett's novel, the thing that he lamented for years, that sooner or later you have to write a slavery book. I don't know that that's true, but one of the central gimmicks in the book is that it's told from the point of view of the slave Jim, and the fugitive slave Jim in Huck Finn. So we're not told from Huck's view, we're told from Jim's view, but it's not Jim's view. It's effectively Percival Everett in Jim's body. And I don't know that, and that's not just true with Jim, it's true with all the slaves in the book. And I don't know that I like that. The more I think about it, the less I like it. The more I think about it, the more I think, well, if you're going to make a secret society of hyper-articulate black people who were slaves and the white people around them don't know, why are you going to do that? Are you doing that to really enhance in your white reader's mind the horror of slavery? So is the implied insult that you think they need your help to see the horror of slavery? Or is the implied insult going in the other direction? That you either can't or don't want to dramatize the inner lives of slaves who were denied the education they would need to sound like Jim does all throughout the book, which is one of the real horrors of slavery. And I love talking about the book with people. This is not a deal breaker. This is not an earth scorcher at all. Like, for instance, I know that Pat loves the book. I'd love to have a talk with her about that and all other aspects of the book. I've had that talk with Hannah. I've had that talk with Sam. I think it's fascinating. It's not at all that I'm angry about it, but I do. Yeah, I have lots and lots of strong opinions about books. Anyway, let's move on to question number 11. What do you look for in writing? What makes a book stand out? Is it prose style, themes, voice, structure, or something else? I want to point out here, prose style, themes, voice, and structure can all be imitated by a monkey. They can all be simulated by a moron. They're affects. They are not the essence. They're not the thing where I think we all look for that makes our hair stand up on end, that makes us, well, it makes some of you forestall an hour of your precious sleep that you need 10 hours of every day. All of those things are appurtenances. Execution is everything. The execution is everything. You might think I'm on shaky ground since I came that close to mentioning Steve Alton's novel Meg when we were talking about Trash Pocket. But nevertheless, Meg is effective trash. but it's all about execution. You can use any of what were the things that we said? Prose style, theme, voice, structure. You can use any of those things in any way. provided, but if you, it's a question of whether or not you execute it well. And for instance, to use the example that I just talked about, James by Percival Everett is brilliantly executed. It is a brilliantly done novel. Incredibly, steeply intelligent, moving, moral. I have some issues with it, but it is amazingly brilliant, like everything else that Percival Everett has written. And that has nothing to do with the appurtenances. You could change around the appurtenances of things like style or voice or structure, and it wouldn't change a thing. And by the same token, if changing around those things suddenly reveals the book to be one-dimensional or pan-shallow or dumb or racist or misogynist, if changing around the appurtenances ruins the magic, well, then you know what you're reading. I would hope you know what you're reading. I would hope that's true. So what happens if you have a threadbare, cheesecloth thin story and you add back in the punctuation? What happens then? What happens if you have an incredibly over-bloated story like a corpse in a river and you add paragraph breaks? Oh no, you can't do that. Oh, I don't like it anymore. Oh, you've schadenfreude things up. What happens if you do that? That's the question. What happens if not so much you change the appurtenances around? If you change the appurtenances around in a book and it doesn't make any difference, you're still thrilled with it, well, then probably your thrill is coming from the execution. And if you change the appurtenances around and it changes everything, it ruins the whole show, it lets girls into the treehouse, well, then you're reading for the appurtenances. You're reading for the stuff, the gimmicks. And maybe you should check yourself before you wreck yourself. Anyway, question number 12 is, how do you decide what to read next? Do you plan ahead, mood read, or follow external factors like hype, recommendations, ARCs? I don't follow hype, I make hype. I am a book critic. But there are two aspects here. My reading follows two troughs. By far the bigger and deeper trough is new releases in the American book market in the 15 or 16 genres that interest me. And with that, I try to adhere to order. I try to read those things as they come to bear. So May books on the top shelf, June books on the shelf below that, July books on the shelf below that, and then within the month, the week of release date. Always with the idea that with every book that is in that trough, in every book there, I am assuming or thinking there's a chance I might review it. So ideally, if there's a chance I might review, like for instance, a book that comes out on May the 28th, well, then I won't read it on May the 2nd for review. Not every book that I want to review, I read twice. Most of them I don't. So the ideal version is that I've set up May in chronological order of release date during the month, and I'm reading the books in that order, in case I want to review them in that order. That doesn't always happen. I read ahead. I fall behind on some books that I felt kind of sort of like reviewing, but is there enough there? Do I have a lot to say? And I read way ahead sometimes. I will be comfortably ensconced in the month of May when a publisher will send me a June book that rings every doorbell in the complex. And suddenly I'm thinking, well, okay, my next book is this boring thing on petrochemicals, but I was sent a book today on Pepys' love life. I often give in to that, but on that trough, it's at least roughly chronological according to the release date of the ARCs that I get. And that is a huge amount of what I read, is new releases. I am thickly involved in May new releases. May only has 10 days left, but I'm still thickly involved in reading May new releases and finding great ones all the time. And then there's the other trough. So the big trough is not mood related at all. Unless by mood you mean that I'm sent an absolute Steve book about a dead Roman dog in the middle of when I'm reading about, Flint, Michigan or something like that, where on the one book, okay, it's an interesting subject. You're doing a pro forma job. You showed up. You're not trying very hard. I want to read your book. Fine. On the other hand is a dead Roman dog, and you've written the hell out of it. That might be a little bit less of structure, but still, it's mostly structured. The other trough is secondhand reading. 20%, 15% of what I read is secondhand reading, and that is happenstance. That's just propinquity, what I happen to come across just in the course of thrift shopping or reading at the Brattle. But also, that's BookTube. Increasingly, I have given that over to BookTube, and I wouldn't change that for the world. I love it. So I'll be watching, my usual 100 BookTube videos a day. I'll be watching something like that. And somebody, whether it's one of those niche channels, could very well be, I read in their niches. In some of the niche channel cases, I have read more in their niches than they have, while still getting in women, but still getting in female authors. Whatever it is, some booktuber will say, well, I've just been reading recently. I don't even know what it would be. I thought, let's say a booktuber who's in his early 40s will say, I kind of like the Matt Damon movies, but I've never really read a Jason Bourne novel by Robert Ludlum. I'm going to give it a try. I'll report back. And then they do. And I've read those. I've read at least the first 6 Robert Ludlum, Jason Bourne books, I think, and a ton of other Ludlum stuff. He's a very dull writer. He's a very plodding, dull writer. For a thriller writer, he's not very thrilling. And that conclusion, the one that I just said, I came to before most of my viewers were born. So if a booktuber who I've at least parasocially got to know, I at least know what they like to read, and I know how far I can trust their judgment, if they read that, they decide, on their channel, I'm going to give this a try. I found it at my grandfather's house. I've seen the movies, but I've never read the book. They give it a try and report back. That might prompt me to pick up the next Jason Bourne novel that I see at the Brattle for $1 and read it again. So in that 20% trough of rereading or secondhand reading, it's not all rereading. Sometimes a booktuber will come across a book that I've never read from years ago. And the way they talk about it, whether they like it or not, makes me think, well, I might want to give that a try. And then it turns up, the Brattle will provide, and I read it. So it's both. I do both. I do very structured, or at least I try to keep it very structured, the main current of my reading, and then wonderfully unstructured, where I'm getting BookTube recommendations, I'm being led to books by other books that I'm reading, like I will read a new biography of Johann Gutenberg, and that will prompt me to read an older biography of Johann Gutenberg, and maybe that biography mentions something that I'll then want to read. Following chains like that is fun. I believe that is a way that allows me to let steam off from the structure of the other side of my reading. And also BookTube events prompt a lot of my reading. We're only 10 days away from a barrage of BookTube events for the whole summer. BookTube is so much fun in the summer. Those of you who are out there and watching, maybe new to BookTube and thinking about starting a channel, why don't you start a channel, turn on a camera, tell us a little bit about your reading, do this tag, for Pete's sake, and then join BookTube events, join Book Trek and read a Star Trek novel or a work of science, join June on the Range and read a Western novel or more than one, and don't just join when you make this brand new channel of yours, but tell everybody that you're joining. In comments section, don't leave a link to your channel, that's tacky, but say, I'm brand new to BookTube and I just did this. I'm definitely joining June on the Range. Leave comments for people. Watch their channels and engage with them. Summer is a great time to join BookTube. We have a lot of events coming up, and a lot of that is going to determine my reading. In the what I call the free time reading that I do, it's going to determine that. But anyway, that was a long answer. Let's go on here. Question number 13. Where do you get inspiration for your BookTube content? What sparks your video ideas? Other creators, trends, personal reading experiences? I'm kind of amazed that Vengeance is not listed here. Maybe that's a South Boston thing. I definitely get ideas from other booktubers. Somebody makes a video that I like. I might want to echo it. If they bring up a subject, I might want to echo it. Like, I Samwise just did a video yesterday. Oh my God, what a video. About audiobooks. It's just incredible. If you haven't seen it, you really have to see it. It is the most thoughtful examination of the subject of audiobooks that I have ever seen on BookTube. And it's a much brought up subject on BookTube, in which he hits me right where I live by saying that listening to audiobooks is also a kind of muscle that you have to work to get good at. I'll try to remember to leave a link to his video. That was wonderful. But if you see something like that, I might want to make a response. Somebody does something like that. They go on a rant. If I see something that's deeply offensive, of course, on Christopher Russell's channel, I might want to slap that down, things like that. But also, a lot of the inspiration, if you want to call it inspiration, from my videos on my channel is now self-propelling. It's now a perpetual motion machine. I have a whole bunch of regular things that I do, and if I stop doing those regular things, I get an earful. I have been told I need to resume the Daily Penguin. I've been told that I need to resume my random book recommendations. I was doing hedgehog book recommendations 10 or 11 at a time, and people love that and want more of it. I've been told that I need to resume my library tour. Of course, we're reading a book out loud. We're reading The Claverlings by Anthony Trollope out loud, and I get at least a dozen emails a week saying, there's no law that says you can't read a second book out loud at the same time. Pick something totally different. Pick a work of nonfiction and read it out loud at the same time that you're doing The Claverlings. It doesn't have to be one at a time. And so on and so forth. plus, people want me to do Last Week in BookTube, a very long edition of Last Week in BookTube. The number of people who said about Last Week in BookTube, could you also include lots of recommendations for YouTube that isn't BookTube? Because apparently a lot of you have found recommendations that you like from those videos, and a bunch of other things. So a lot of the content, the video ideas that I get on this channel are just that. It's just that we have dug ourselves into a nice number of routines that are a lot of fun. So it's natural to keep those up. Let's see here. Question number 14. If you could make any book go viral right now, what would it be? A book you think deserves more attention, and why? I would not do that. And I don't agree with any kind of prescription when it comes to reading. What I want to go viral is the fun of reading itself. Fewer people read now than at any time in human history since the Middle Ages, when only 1% of the population could read. And a big part of that is social media. It's doom scrolling. It's these bright screens that are with us all the time. It's also the fact that the generation that is coming of age now and answering all these polling questions has been doped to the gills with unregulated psychotropic drugs since they were 3 years old. That's bound to have an effect on your ability to pay attention, and so on and so forth. What I would like to go viral is what we are proselytizing on this little corner of BookTube all the time, which is the joy of reading, that you really should add this to your life. And a great way to do that is to start and join BookTube. Because I have never encountered in my entire life, 28 years of reading, I have never encountered anything that makes reading as much fun as BookTube. It's wonderful. It's wonderful to do on your own, just on your own. But oh my God, once you've done the reading on your own, the fun of BookTube, of joshing with like-minded people, joking with like-minded people, disagreeing with like-minded people, and that's what I would like to go viral. Not book talk, not the reading aesthetic, but the stuff that we really do, the real joy and love of reading. I have been preaching that love my whole life. And I would love it if that would go viral, but not a single book. No way. That's up to everybody to decide. Question number 15 is, who are some booktubers with reading tastes similar to yours? I think I don't mean to. This is not the 20K BetterHelp sponsorship egomania peeking out. I promise. I think I probably read more widely than anyone on BookTube. So the people on BookTube whose tastes align with mine align in some ways. So those niche channels for fantasy books, I love epic fantasy and non-epic fantasy when it's done well. And so, that theirs align with mine. People who love reading historical fiction, well, of course, I love reading historical fiction. So that aligns with mine. A lot of those people would never read epic fantasy. The epic fantasy people would never read Edwardian plays or Gerald of Wales or anything like that. So there's no complete overlap. The closest, there are people that come awful close. Right? I mean, David Murphy and I share a lot of reading tastes in common. A lot of other people do too. I don't look to. I guess what I'm saying is I don't look to BookTube for any complete alignment. The question is asking similar tastes, and really, that's not really what I come to BookTube for. I have grown accustomed in my reading life. I'm picking my way around how to put this. I've grown accustomed in my reading life to the fact that even diehard, passionate readers that I meet will not read as broadly as I do, and will probably not have read as extensively as I have in even the things they do read. Most people have lives. They have friends, family, job, school, personal hygiene. They sleep 10 hours a day, the aforementioned sleeping 10 hours a day. I don't do any of that. So I look for similar tastes, but really what I look for is not the books or the taste. Really, it's that joy. I found the right group here in BookTube. That joy, that thing in the eye, that thing where this is not a chore, and I am not doing this in order to impress people, and I'm not doing this in order to one-up people or get a leg over on people. I'm doing this because I love it. I just love doing it. That's really what I look for, not so much similar tastes. There are plenty of people on BookTube who have completely diametrically opposed tastes from mine. I never miss a video of theirs because they have that. Because that's the bond here, is the love of this, regardless of how it expresses itself. That's really what I look for, not so much similar tastes. And then number 16 is to tag others. But Pat mentioned that this tag has been very much embraced. So I'm going to pull the same maneuver that she did and just say, if you're watching this and you haven't done this tag, by all means do it. Because this is fascinating. This is basically your profile as a reader. And I love that. How could that not be the most interesting thing in a community of readers? So feel free to do this. It's a wonderfully detailed tag. So I'm gonna wrap this up. This went a little long, but I'll be back. Thank you, BookTube.